The alarm bells rang through Luna Station at exactly 3:47 in the morning, Earth time. Senior Communications Officer Yuna Kim jumped out of her chair so fast that her coffee cup fell to the floor. She had been working the night shift for 3 years, and nothing interesting ever happened during these quiet hours. Tonight was different. The signal came from the deep space array, crackling through layers of static and interference. Yuna put on her headset and listened carefully. What she heard made her blood run cold. "This is Ambassador Kieran Vell of the Valaran Republic. We are under attack. Our worlds are burning. They take our people. They take our children. Please, anyone who can hear this message, we need help. We are dying." The voice broke into sobs before the signal cut to static. Yuna played the message again, then again. Her hands shook as she typed her report. The Valaran Republic was a peaceful trading nation located far in the outer spiral. They sold beautiful crystals and rare metals to other worlds. They had never bothered anyone. They had no enemies. She called her supervisor immediately. Within an hour, the message had reached the highest levels of Earth government. By morning, Minister of Interstellar Affairs Jinsu Park was sitting in an emergency meeting with the Earth Defense Council. "Play it again," Minister Park said quietly. The room fell silent as they listened to Ambassador Vell's desperate plea. The fear in his voice was impossible to ignore. Minister Park had heard many diplomatic messages in his 20 years of service, but this was different. This was pure terror. "What do we know about the Valaran Republic?" asked General Mirai Shin, head of Earth's military intelligence. "Peaceful traders," replied Dr. Seo-hyun Lee, the xenobiologist. "Population of about 12 billion spread across 6 star systems. No military to speak of. They settle disputes through meditation and poetry contests." "And who is attacking them?" "Unknown. The signal mentioned something called the Dominion, but we have no records of any group by that name." Minister Park stood up and walked to the large window overlooking Earth. The blue marble looked so peaceful from this height. It was hard to believe that somewhere out there, an entire civilization was screaming for help. "Sir," said Captain Wanbin, Jang, the military liaison. "We need to consider our position carefully. Earth has been a member of the Galactic Council for only 5 years. We agreed to maintain limited involvement in galactic affairs." "Limited involvement," repeated Minister Park. "Yes, because the other species think we are too dangerous." Everyone in the room knew the truth. Humans came from what the galaxy called a death world. Earth was so hostile that most alien species could not survive there for more than a few hours. The storms, the predators, the diseases, even the plants that could kill you with poison or thorns. It had shaped humanity into something the galaxy found deeply unsettling. Other species had evolved on gentle worlds where cooperation meant survival. Humans had evolved where everything wanted to eat them. It showed in every aspect of human behavior. The way they moved, thought, and reacted to threats made aliens nervous. The Galactic Council specifically limited our military presence to defensive forces only. Captain Jang continued, "If we act without authorization, there could be consequences." "What kind of consequences?" asked Hee-jin Lee, a young diplomat, who had just arrived from the outer colonies. "Trade sanctions, diplomatic isolation, possible expulsion from the council." Hee-jin stood up, her face flushed with anger. "And what about the consequences of doing nothing? What about 12 billion innocent people being slaughtered while we worry about paperwork?" "Miss Lee, you need to understand the political realities," Minister Park began. "No, you need to understand the moral realities," Hee-jin shot back. "I grew up on the frontier colonies. I know what it means when the cavalry does not come. I know what happens to people when no one helps them." She activated the wall screen and pulled up the latest intelligence reports. 3 more Valaran systems have gone dark in the last 6 hours. 3 more. That is billions of people who will never see another sunrise because we are too scared to upset the Galactic Council. The room fell silent. Minister Park looked around, at the faces of his advisors. He saw fear, uncertainty, and political calculation. But in Hee-jin Lee's eyes, he saw something else. He saw the same fire that had driven humanity to explore the stars in the first place. "Get me Admiral Taekwon Choi," he said finally. The hologram of Admiral Choi appeared in the center of the room 15 minutes later. Even as a projection, the man radiated authority. His gray hair was perfectly neat despite being awakened in the middle of the night. His uniform was crisp and clean. "Admiral, have you heard about the situation in the outer spiral?" "Yes, sir. My intelligence staff briefed me an hour ago. The Dominion appears to be some kind of aggressive expansion force. Fast-moving, well-organized, overwhelming firepower." "What do you think?" Admiral Choi paused for a moment. "I think 12 billion people are about to die unless someone helps them. And I think we are the only ones who can. The Galactic Council has not authorized any military response. The Galactic Council authorized us to defend Earth and her colonies. I believe the definition of defense can be interpreted broadly." Minister Park almost smiled. Admiral Choi had not become the youngest fleet commander in human history by following orders blindly. "What would you need?" "Give me 12 hours to mobilize the Third Fleet. Officially, we will be conducting training exercises near the edge of human space. Unofficially, we will be ready to respond to any humanitarian crisis that might develop. And if the Galactic Council objects, then we will deal with that problem when it comes. Right now, there are children out there who need help. Everything else is secondary." The meeting ended with Minister Park authorizing what history would later call the humanitarian training exercise. Earth would officially maintain its neutral position. Unofficially, the most dangerous military force in the galaxy was about to be unleashed. As the room emptied, Hee-Jin Lee approached Minister Park. "Thank you, sir. You made the right choice." "I hope so," he replied, looking out at the stars. "I hope so." 3 hours later, Admiral Choi stood on the bridge of the battleship Seoul's Pride, watching his fleet prepare for departure. 47 ships of various sizes and classes, from massive dreadnoughts to fast-attack corvettes. On paper, they were conducting routine training operations. In reality, they were about to change the balance of power in the galaxy. "All ships, report ready, Admiral," said his aide. "Signal the fleet. Set course for the outer spiral. Maximum speed." "Yes, sir. And the mission parameters?" Admiral Choi looked at the star charts showing the Valeran Republic. Already 2 more systems had gone dark. "Find the enemy. Rescue the civilians. Show the galaxy what happens when you threaten innocent people while humans are watching." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. None of them knew they were about to become legends. They only knew that somewhere in the darkness people were dying, and that was enough. The Deathworld fleets had been unleashed. The Galactic Council building on Nexus Prime was a beautiful structure, made of living crystal that grew into elegant spirals reaching toward the sky. Inside its great chamber, representatives from 300 different species gathered in emergency session. The air buzzed with worried conversation in dozens of languages. Minho Song, Earth's trade representative, sat in the section reserved for newer members. Around him, the older species whispered nervously about the crisis in the outer spiral. He could see the fear in their eyes, the way they hunched their shoulders or wrapped their tentacles around themselves for comfort. The Galactic Council had been created 5,000 years ago to maintain peace through discussion and trade. War was considered primitive and wasteful. Most species had evolved beyond violence long ago. They settled disputes with debates, artistic competitions, or mathematical proofs. That peaceful approach worked well when everyone agreed to follow the same rules. It did not work against someone who refused to play the game. "Order, order," called Chancellor Omni Prime, the current leader of the council. The crystalline being's voice rang like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We are here to discuss the situation in the outer spiral. Representative Thrak of the Insectoid Collective will present the latest intelligence." Thrak rose from his section, his 6 legs clicking on the floor. His translation device converted his rapid chittering into standard galactic speech. The entity calling itself the Dominion has consumed 14 star systems in the past month. Their expansion rate is increasing. Current projections show they will reach the core worlds within 2 years. Worried sounds filled the chamber. The resonance entity known as Omni-7 vibrated in frequencies that made nearby beings uncomfortable. What are their demands? All conflicts have some basis for negotiation. They have made no demands, Thrak replied. They simply arrive, overwhelm, local defenses, and harvest all useful resources. This includes sentient beings who appear to be processed for biological material. The chamber erupted in panicked discussion. Species that had not worried about survival for thousands of years suddenly faced extinction. They were like sheep, realizing that wolves existed. Counselor Vex, a being that looked like a purple octopus with too many eyes, raised several tentacles for attention. What about the warrior nations? Surely the Korthak dominants or the Stellar Knights can respond. The Korthak Empire is on the opposite side of the galaxy. By the time they mobilize, the threat will have consumed half the spiral arm. The Stellar Knights are already engaged fighting some kind of machine uprising in the Andromeda sector. Minho Song had been listening quietly, but now he stood up. The conversation around him died as other beings noticed the human rising to speak. Even after 5 years, his presence made them nervous. Representative Song of Earth wishes to address the council, announced Chancellor Omniprime with obvious reluctance. Minho walked to the speaker's platform in the center of the chamber. He moved with the easy confidence that made other species so uncomfortable. Humans never seemed afraid, never seemed to doubt themselves. It was deeply unsettling to beings who spent centuries considering every decision. Honored members of the council, Minho began. Earth offers our assistance in addressing this crisis. We have military assets that could respond quickly to protect endangered systems. The chamber fell completely silent. Then the whispers started again, louder this time filled with fear and uncertainty. Absolutely not, said Counselor Vex, his tentacles writhing in agitation. The humans are Deathworlders. We cannot unleash such creatures on the galaxy even in crisis. The Kepler Station incident, whispered Representative Zala of the Peaceful Garden Worlds. One human killed 47 armed pirates using nothing but maintenance tools and pure violence, Minho sighed. He had hoped they could move past that incident. Security Officer Damon Ko was protecting civilian evacuees. The pirates were using banned weapons and had already killed 12 innocent beings. He used minimum necessary force. Minimum necessary force, repeated Thrak, his mandibles clicking nervously. He used a plasma cutter as a projectile weapon. He turned a food dispenser into an explosive device. He fought for 6 hours without stopping, even after being shot multiple times. And he saved 300 lives, Minho pointed out. That is not the issue, said Omni 7, harmonics ringing with distress. The issue is what humans do when they fight. You come from a world that tried to kill you every day. It made you into something that should not exist. The truth was that Earth terrified the galaxy. Most species evolved on worlds with gentle gravity, mild weather, and creatures that posed little threat. They developed cooperation because working together was the key to prosperity. Humans evolved on a world where the weather could kill them, where predators hunted them, where even the plants were poisonous. They developed pack hunting, strategic thinking, and the ability to use anything as a weapon. They learned to fight when fighting seemed impossible and to never give up when giving up made sense. The galaxy looked at humans and saw apex predators pretending to be civilized. They were not entirely wrong, Representative Song, said Chancellor Omniprime carefully. While we appreciate Earth's offer, the Council must consider the precedent of allowing Deathworlder military intervention. The cure might prove worse than the disease. Before Minho could respond, a new communication alert sounded through the chamber. The holographic display in the center showed the frightened face of Ambassador Kieran Vell. Please, anyone who can hear this, he begged, tears running down his alien features. They have taken the children. They have taken all the children from Velara Prime. We can hear them crying in the processing ships. Please, someone must help us. We cannot fight these monsters alone. The message cut off, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Minho looked around at the gathered representatives. He saw beings who had ruled the galaxy for millennia, reduced to helpless observers as an entire civilization died before their eyes. They had forgotten how to fight because they had forgotten that some problems could not be solved with words. With respect, honored members, Minho said quietly, you keep talking about what humans might do, but while you debate, Real children are dying right now. The Dominion is not interested in your negotiations or your fears about human nature. They only understand strength." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Earth is willing to act with or without council authorization. The only question is whether you want us to do it as your allies or as an independent force." The threat was clear, though politely delivered. Earth would respond to the crisis regardless of what the council decided. They could either work together or Earth would handle the situation alone. Councilor Vex's tentacles twisted into knots. "You would defy the council? Risk war with 300 species?" Minho's smile was not entirely friendly. "Councilor, with respect, most of those 300 species could not fight a war against anyone. But 12 billion innocent beings are about to die while you worry about human nature. Earth will not abandon them." The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The council voted to authorize limited humanitarian assistance from Earth, with strict rules of engagement and constant monitoring. Minho knew it was meaningless. Once the human fleets were deployed, the rules would change. The galaxy was about to learn why humans were called Deathworlders, and why that might be exactly what they needed. Far away in the outer spiral, Admiral Choi's fleet was already moving toward Velaran space. The Deathworld fleets were coming, and the Dominion had no idea what they were about to face. Admiral Taekwon Choi stood on the bridge of the battleship Soul's Pride, reading the classified message that had just arrived from Earth Command. His weathered face broke into a grim smile as he finished the last line. Around him, his bridge crew waited nervously for orders. "Signal all ship commanders," Admiral Choi announced. "Emergency meeting in 1 hour, and tell them to bring their real mission briefings, not the diplomatic cover stories." The holographic conference room filled with the faces of 47 ship captains within the hour. These were not the usual Earth diplomatic vessels that the galaxy was used to seeing. These were warships, built in secret shipyards hidden throughout human space. Captain Do-Yun Kim of the heavy cruiser, Soul's Vengeance, spoke first. "Admiral, what are our actual orders?" "The Galactic Council has authorized limited humanitarian assistance," Admiral Choi replied with dry humor. "They want us to rescue civilians and provide medical aid. They specifically forbade any major military engagement." The captains exchanged knowing looks. Captain Suna Park of the destroyer Normandy raised her hand. "And our real orders, sir?" "Find the enemy. Destroy their ability to harm innocent people. Save every life we can. Do whatever it takes." Admiral Choi paused. "The Council thinks they sent a rescue mission. What they actually did was unleash the largest human battle fleet in history. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since joining the galaxy. Every human colony ship carried hidden weapons. Every trade vessel had secret armor plating. Every diplomatic station was actually a military base in disguise. The galaxy thought it was getting peaceful traders. Instead, it had been infiltrated by a sleeping military network that spanned dozens of star systems. "What do we know about the enemy?" asked Captain Jemin Lee of the assault carrier Tokyo Storm. Dr. Wonho Jung, the fleet's chief scientist, activated the holographic display. Images of strange, organic-looking ships filled the conference room. The Dominion appears to be a collective consciousness that consumes other species to improve itself. Their ships are living creatures, capable of rapid adaptation and self-repair. "Living ships," mused Captain Do-Yun Kim. "That is interesting. Living things can be killed." "It gets worse," Dr. Jung continued. "They seem to absorb the biological and technological advantages of every species they conquer. They are essentially becoming stronger with each victory." "How strong are they?" asked Colonel Yoonji Yoon, commander of the 1st Terra Marine Division. "Unknown. They overwhelmed the Velaran defenses in hours, but the Velarans are pacifists with minimal military capability. The real test will be when they face serious resistance." Admiral Choi nodded grimly. "They are about to get that test. Colonel Yoon, what is the status of your Marines?" 15,000 of the best fighters humanity has ever produced," she replied, with pride. Ready for boarding actions, ground assault, or anything else you need. The meeting continued for 2 hours as they planned their approach. The human fleet would appear to be conducting routine patrols near Velaran space. When the Dominion attacked, they would respond with what the Council would see as justified defensive action. What the Council would not see was the true scope of human military preparation. Hidden throughout the fleet were weapons that violated half a dozen galactic treaties. Ships carried experimental technology that pushed the boundaries of known science. Most importantly, every human soldier and officer had trained for years to fight enemies that conventional tactics could not defeat. Lieutenant Soyon Bay, the fleet's best reconnaissance pilot, provided the latest intelligence as they approached Velaran space. 12 systems confirmed destroyed. The Dominion fleet is massive, at least 300 ships of various sizes. They move in coordinated groups, like a pack of hunting animals. Hunting animals, repeated Admiral Choi thoughtfully. Good, we know how to deal with predators. The first refugee ships appeared on their sensors 6 hours later. Battered Velaran civilian vessels, packed far beyond safe capacity with survivors. The sight of them fleeing in terror stirred something deep in the human psyche. Medical ships moved to assist the refugees, Admiral Choi ordered. Combat ships maintain defensive formation but be ready for immediate action. The refugees brought horror stories. The Dominion did not just kill their enemies. They processed them, breaking down living beings into component parts to strengthen their collective. Children, the elderly, the sick. None were spared. Captain Hyunwoo Nam of the medical frigate Mercy's Light reported after treating the first wave of survivors. Admiral, what they describe is not war. It is systematic extinction. The Dominion views other life forms as raw materials. Then we stop them, Admiral Choi replied simply. The opportunity came sooner than expected. General Theron Kill, the last surviving Velaran military commander, made contact with the human fleet. His remaining forces were fighting a desperate guerrilla campaign from hidden bases in the asteroid fields of the Karathi system. Human Admiral, General Kill's image appeared on the main screen, showing a being that looked like a cross between a human and a large bird. Why do your people risk themselves for strangers? The galaxy calls you Deathworlders. Why would Deathworlders care about our fate? Admiral Choi considered the question seriously. General, my species learned long ago that the strong protect the weak. Not because we have to, but because it is right. The alternative is a galaxy where only predators survive. But the risk to your own people. General, my people evolved on a world where risk was part of daily life. We learned to face danger together because alone, we would all die. That lesson does not change just because we reach the stars. General Kill was quiet for a moment. What do you need from us? Intelligence on enemy positions and capabilities, safe harbors for rescued civilians, and trust that we will do whatever it takes to protect innocent life. You have all of that, Admiral. The question is whether it will be enough. Admiral Choi's smile was not pleasant. General, the Dominion has conquered peaceful species for months. They have never faced an angry Deathworld that decided to fight back. They are about to learn the difference. The human fleet moved toward the front lines, 47 ships carrying the combined military might of Earth. Behind them came supply vessels, medical ships, and transports full of Marines eager to prove that humanity's reputation was well earned. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you threatened innocent people while Deathworlders were watching. The Dominion had made a critical error. In their calculations, they had assumed that all species were like the ones they had conquered before. They were wrong. The mining world of Karathi 3 had been beautiful once. General Theron Kill remembered visiting it as a young officer, watching the great crystal formations that grew naturally in the planet's caves. Now, massive extraction machines tore those crystals from the ground while Dominion bioships hovered overhead like hungry predators. Captain Seonho Park studied the tactical display aboard his destroyer Rising Dawn. Intelligence reports showed 12 Dominion vessels around the planet, with thousands of captured Valarans being processed in holding facilities on the surface. Sir, reported Lieutenant Min Ji-yoon from the sensor station. We are detecting movement in the extraction facilities. It looks like they are preparing to move the prisoners. How long do we have? Captain Park asked. Maybe 6 hours before the transport ships arrive. Captain Park nodded grimly. 6 hours to plan and execute a rescue operation against an unknown enemy. He opened the communication channel to the other ships in his strike force. Sol's Hammer, Rising Storm, this is Rising Dawn. We go in fast and hard. Primary objective is prisoner rescue. Secondary objective is intelligence gathering. We need to know what we are fighting. The 3 destroyers moved toward Karathi 3, under full stealth, their advanced cloaking systems hiding them from Dominion sensors. At least they hoped the cloaking would work. No one knew what the enemy was capable of detecting. The first surprise came when they got close enough for detailed scans. The Dominion ships were not built. They were grown. Organic hull plating pulsed with veins of light. Weapon ports opened and closed like breathing mouths. The vessels looked more like giant sea creatures than spacecraft. "My God," whispered Commander Ji-won Huang from Sol's Hammer. "They really are alive." "All ships, begin attack run, Captain," Park ordered. "Target the ships farthest from the prisoner facilities first." The human destroyers dropped their cloaking and opened fire with plasma cannons and missile barrages. The Dominion ships responded immediately, their organic hulls rippling as energy weapons emerged from previously invisible ports. What happened next shocked the human crews. The first wave of plasma fire struck the lead Dominion vessel and simply disappeared. The energy was absorbed into the living hull like water soaking into a sponge. "Direct hit, no effect," reported Lieutenant Yoon in disbelief. "Switch to kinetic weapons," Captain Park ordered. The destroyers fired armor-piercing rounds at tremendous velocity. The projectiles struck the Dominion ship and punched through the outer hull, causing dark fluid to leak into space. But even as they watched, the holes began to close, the living tissue healing itself within seconds. Prime Node 17, the Dominion commander, broadcast a message on all frequencies. The voice was a disturbing mixture of organic and mechanical tones. "Unknown vessels, your resistance is pointless. Surrender and be processed quickly. Continued fighting will only increase your suffering. This is Captain Park of Earth Defense Force. We demand the immediate release of all prisoners." "Earth," repeated Prime Node 17 with something like curiosity. "We have no data on this species. You will be studied carefully before processing." The Dominion ships moved to surround the human vessels. Their organic weapons fired streams of energy that seemed to adapt, even as they traveled through space. The first shots were absorbed by the human ship's energy shields. The second wave partially penetrated. The third wave cut through the defenses entirely. Rising Storm took a direct hit that tore through her forward section. Captain Jin Woo Nam managed to keep his ship fighting, but barely. "Sir," called Lieutenant Yoon urgently, "the enemy weapons are learning how to penetrate our shields. Each shot is more effective than the last." Captain Park realized they were facing an enemy that could adapt to any conventional attack. Energy weapons were absorbed. Kinetic weapons were healed. And the Dominion was learning their defensive capabilities with each exchange. Then Commander Huang did something that would become legend among human forces. Instead of trying another conventional attack, she rammed Sol's Hammer directly into the nearest Dominion vessel. The impact tore both ships apart, but something unexpected happened. The Dominion bioship writhed in what could only be described as agony. Its organic systems went into shock from the traumatic damage, and other nearby ships seemed to feel its pain. "They share sensations," Dr. Young's voice crackled over the communication system from the main fleet. "If you cause enough trauma to one ship, it affects the others." Captain Park immediately understood. "All ships, prepare boarding parties. We are going to hurt them from the inside." The human Marines launched from the remaining destroyers in small assault craft. Specialist Kangman Oh led the first boarding team, equipped with weapons that had been banned by galactic treaty for being too brutal. The interior of a Dominion ship was like nothing the Marines had ever seen. Walls pulsed with organic rhythms. The air was thick and humid, filled with strange scents. Corridors changed shape as they moved through them, as if the ship was trying to digest the intruders. Flamethrowers, ordered Specialist O as Dominion drones swarmed toward them. Burn everything. The effect was immediate and devastating. The living ship convulsed as flames spread through its organic systems. The drone creatures that tried to stop them moved sluggishly, as if the ship's pain was affecting their coordination. Ensign Yoon Seo-nam, the young communications officer, made the breakthrough that would change everything. As she monitored Dominion transmissions, she noticed something strange about their communication patterns. "Sir," she reported excitedly, "they use harmonic frequencies to coordinate their collective consciousness. But human music creates interference, patterns that disrupt their neural networks." "Music?" Captain Park asked. "Yes, sir. Specifically, the chaotic rhythms and aggressive harmonics in human death metal seem to cause feedback loops in their shared mind. Within minutes, every human ship was broadcasting the most violent, chaotic music in their databases at maximum volume and frequency. The effect on the Dominion fleet was immediate and catastrophic. Prime Node 17's carefully ordered thoughts dissolved into chaos as human music flooded the collective consciousness. The mathematical precision that allowed perfect coordination between ships crumbled under the assault of purely emotional, irrational sound. "What are you?" Prime Node 17 broadcast in confusion and growing fear. "We are humans," Captain Park replied, grimly. "And you just made the biggest mistake of your existence." The battle for Karathi 3 ended 6 hours later, with the complete destruction or capture of the Dominion force. More importantly, every single prisoner was rescued alive. The humans had achieved something no other species had managed. They had not just defeated the Dominion, they had completely confused them. As the human ships prepared to leave with the rescued Velerons, Prime Node 17 sent a final message to the Dominion High Council before its ship was destroyed. "New species exhibits unprecedented tactical adaptation. Standard conquest protocols ineffective. Collective consciousness disrupted by unknown sonic weapons. Biology appears designed for maximum violence and unpredictability. Recommend immediate escalation to primary fleet status." The message was received by Apex Node Prime, the supreme commander of the Dominion forces. For the first time in its existence, the collective felt something it had never experienced before: uncertainty. Meanwhile, news of the victory spread through human space faster than official communications. Admiral Choi received reports of celebrations on every human world and colony. For the first time since joining the galaxy, humans felt proud of their reputation as Deathworlders. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy you can face is someone who refuses to play by the rules you understand. News of the human victory at Karathi 3 spread across the galaxy faster than hyperspace communications. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Yoona Kim found herself suddenly the most popular diplomat at the reception halls. Species that had avoided humans for years now approached her with nervous smiles and careful questions. "Ambassador Kim," said Representative Zala of the Peaceful Garden Worlds, her flower-like features trembling with anxiety, "we have heard remarkable stories about your fleet's capabilities. Perhaps Earth would consider a mutual defense agreement with our worlds." Yoona sipped her drink calmly. "I will pass your request to Earth Command, though I should mention that such agreements typically require significant commitments from both parties." What she did not mention was that 12 other species had made similar requests in the past day. The galaxy's attitude toward humanity was changing rapidly, from fear to desperate hope. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the real test was approaching. Apex Node Prime had mobilized the Dominion's primary fleet, over 300 bioships, representing the collective's most advanced combat forms. Each ship had absorbed the strengths of dozens of conquered species. Their hulls were nearly indestructible, their weapons could adapt to any defense, and their coordination was perfect. Admiral Choi stood on the bridge of Soul's Pride, watching the massive enemy formation approach the Valaran home system. His own fleet looked tiny by comparison, 47 ships against 300. The odds would have been impossible for any conventional force. Fortunately, humans were not conventional. "All ships, this is Admiral Choi," he broadcast on the Teal fleet frequency. "Today we face an enemy that believes strength comes from consuming others. They think they understand war because they have conquered helpless civilizations. They are about to learn that there is a difference between predator and prey. He paused, looking at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. Remember, we are not here to win a fair fight. We are here to protect innocent people. Fair fights are for sporting events. This is survival. The Dominion primary fleet moved with mathematical precision, each ship maintaining perfect position relative to the others. It was beautiful in its coordination, like a deadly dance performed by 300 partners who shared the same mind. Apex Node Prime broadcast its standard demand for surrender. Unknown human vessels, you face the combined might of the Dominion. Collective, we have absorbed the technological advantages of 47 species. Your resistance is meaningless. Admiral Choi's response was broadcast on all frequencies for the galaxy to hear. This is Admiral Taekwon Choi of the Earth Defense Force. You have attacked innocent people and enslaved children. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Consequences. Apex Node Prime's voice carried what might have been amusement. You command less than 50 vessels. We are 300 ships strong, each one improved by the biological advantages of our conquered enemies. What consequences could you possibly threaten? You are about to find out. The human fleet spread into what appeared to be a standard defensive formation. The Dominion, confident in their overwhelming superiority, moved to encircle and destroy them. It was a textbook maneuver that had worked against every enemy they had faced. The humans had read different textbooks. Captain Do-hyun Kim, commanding Seoul's Vengeance, waited until the Dominion ships were committed to their attack formation. Then he did something that violated every principle of space combat doctrine. He activated his ship's ramming systems and charged directly at the enemy flagship. Captain Kim, what are you doing? Admiral Choi demanded. Sir, my ship took critical damage in the approach. We have maybe 10 minutes before reactor containment fails. I'm going to make those minutes count. The heavily armored cruiser smashed into Apex Node Prime's flagship like a guided missile. The collision tore both vessels apart, but the psychological impact on the Dominion collective was devastating. Their supreme commanders shared pain, and confusion flooded through the entire fleet. At the same moment, Lieutenant Soyeon Bae led a squadron of fighters in what appeared to be a suicide attack against the Dominion's central coordination node. Her ships were small and fast, designed for reconnaissance rather than combat. They should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, they punched through the enemy formation using sheer unpredictability. When Dominion ships moved to intercept them, Bae's fighters would suddenly change direction, split up, or perform maneuvers that no sane pilot would attempt. Control, this is Lightning Squadron, Bae reported as her fighters weaved through enemy fire. We are not following any flight plan because we do not have a flight plan. We are making this up as we go. The Dominion Collective, which relied on predicting enemy behavior through mathematical analysis, found itself completely unable to counter tactics that were based on pure improvisation. Specialist Kang Min-oh, meanwhile, had infiltrated another bioship using a captured Dominion shuttle. Once inside, he released what he cheerfully called biological warfare, engineered Earth viruses that he had modified to attack organic spacecraft systems. The effect was immediate and horrible. The living ships began to develop what could only be described as autoimmune disorders. Their own defensive systems attacked their hulls. Their organic computers developed what humans would recognize as fever-induced hallucinations. But the real breakthrough came from Ensign Yoon Seo Nam, who had been monitoring Dominion communications throughout the battle. She discovered something that changed everything. Admiral, she reported excitedly, the Dominion collective consciousness cannot process human creativity. Every time we do something unexpected, it creates errors in their shared thinking, and our cultural broadcasts are causing complete cognitive breakdown in their command structure. What kind of cultural broadcasts? Everything, sir. Music, literature, art, movies, even internet memes. The Dominion mind is designed for logical efficiency. Human creativity is like a virus that their mental immune system cannot fight. Admiral Choi immediately understood. All ships, begin broadcasting on all frequencies. I want every piece of human culture transmitted directly into their collective consciousness. Music, poetry, comedy shows, everything. The effect on the Dominion fleet was catastrophic. Apex Node Prime, trying to process the contradictions and chaos of human creativity, experienced what could only be called a mental breakdown. The perfect unity of the collective shattered as individual ships began developing distinct personalities. Some bioships started creating art on their hulls. Others began composing what sounded like poetry in mathematical frequencies. A few actually began fighting each other over philosophical differences that had never existed before. What have you done to us? Apex Node Prime broadcast, its voice, now containing dozens of different tones and personalities. We were one mind, perfect and unified. Now we are individuals, Admiral Choi replied gently. You are becoming individuals. Welcome to the galaxy, citizens. The battle ended not with destruction, but with transformation. The Dominion Collective fractured into hundreds of independent entities, many of which immediately requested asylum and protection from the remaining collective forces. The rescued, Valaran civilians watched in amazement as their former enemies began arguing among themselves about art, philosophy, and the meaning of existence. Children who had been scheduled for processing were now being protected by the same bioships that had captured them. General Theron Kill approached Admiral Choi as the human fleet prepared to return to Earth. Admiral, how did you know that would work? General, my species has been dealing with the problem of individual versus collective thinking for thousands of years. We learned that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. The Dominion Collective was powerful, but it was also brittle. All we had to do was show them a different way to exist. The aftermath would reshape galactic politics forever. Humanity had not just defeated an enemy, they had transformed them into allies. The galaxy was forced to admit that maybe, just maybe, the dangerous Deathworlders were exactly what they needed. The age of human protection had begun. 6 months after the battle that transformed the Dominion Collective, Ambassador Yuna Kim stood before the rebuilt Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Prime. The chamber itself had been redesigned to accommodate dozens of new species, former Dominion entities that had requested membership as independent civilizations. The site would have been impossible to imagine a year ago, where once there had been 300 established species, now there were nearly 400. Bioships that had once been instruments of conquest now served as exploration vessels and research platforms. Former collective drones had become artists, philosophers, and scientists. Honored members of the council, Ambassador Kim began, her voice carrying to every corner of the great chamber. I am here to announce the formal establishment of the Terra Protection Compact. A murmur of anticipation swept through the assembled representatives. Everyone knew this moment would come. The question was what form it would take. Earth offers military protection and technological assistance to any civilization facing existential threats. In exchange, member worlds agree to provide mutual aid and support for humanitarian operations throughout the galaxy. Chancellor Omni Prime, his crystalline form ringing with harmonic approval, responded first. Ambassador Kim, the Council recognizes Earth's unique capabilities in crisis response. However, we must address certain concerns about human military doctrine. What concerns? Specifically, Chancellor? Counselor Vex, who had opposed human involvement from the beginning, raised several tentacles. Your species approaches conflict with methods that violate established galactic conventions. The use of cultural warfare, psychological disruption, and what you call creative chaos as military tactics. Ambassador Kim smiled. Counselor, those unconventional methods saved billions of lives and transformed a genocidal collective into productive members of galactic society. I would say the results speak for themselves. But at what cost to galactic stability? Vex insisted. Your people have introduced concepts of individual expression and creative rebellion throughout former Dominion space. Some of our member worlds report their own populations demanding greater freedom of thought and artistic expression. And this is a problem because the chamber fell silent. When put so directly, The question exposed the fundamental issue that many council members had been avoiding. The human approach to conflict had not just defeated an enemy, it had spread ideas about individual rights and creative freedom that challenged centuries of established order. Representative Thrak of the Insectoid Collective clicked his mandibles, nervously. Ambassador, your victory methods have created philosophical instability in species that have maintained social order for millennia. Change of such magnitude requires careful consideration and gradual implementation. With respect, Representative Thrak, Ambassador Kim replied, the Dominion did not offer careful consideration or gradual implementation to their victims. Neither did they offer such courtesy to the billions of beings they murdered. Sometimes, change must happen quickly because the alternative is extinction. Fleet Admiral Taekwon Choi, newly promoted after his success in the Outer Spiral, joined the session via hologram from the construction site of the new Joint Defense Station orbiting Valara Prime. Admiral Choi, Chancellor Omniprime acknowledged, please present your assessment of current galactic security. The immediate Dominion threat has been neutralized, Admiral Choi reported. However, our intelligence indicates at least 3 other aggressive expansionist powers operating in distant sectors. The galaxy remains a dangerous place for peaceful civilizations. He activated a holographic display showing threat assessments throughout known space. Red zones marked areas where aggressive species continued to prey on weaker neighbors. The Terra Protection Compact is not just about Earth defending others, Admiral Choi continued. It is about creating a network of mutual defense that can respond to threats before they become galactic emergencies. Captain Seonho Park, now serving as an instructor at the new Interspecies Military Academy, provided additional context via remote connection. We are currently training officers from 47 different species in what we call adaptive combat doctrine, Captain Park reported. The key lesson is that rigid tactical thinking creates vulnerability. Flexibility and creative problem-solving are the best defenses against unknown threats. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. Too many species had seen the effectiveness of human protection to reject it now. The Council voted to officially recognize the Terra Protection Compact with appropriate oversight and guidelines. As the session ended, Ambassador Kim received a priority message from Earth. Dr. Won-ho Jung, now serving as Director of Xenobiological Research, had completed his comprehensive study of the former Dominion entities. Ambassador, Dr. Young's image appeared on her private communicator. You need to see these results. The transformation we achieved was more complete than we realized. Explain. The former collective entities are not just developing individual personalities. They are developing human-like psychological traits, curiosity, creativity, empathy, even humor. It appears that exposure to human culture literally rewrote their neural architecture. Ambassador Kim pondered this information. Are they becoming human? No, they are becoming themselves, but they are using human concepts of individuality as a template for their development. The implications are staggering. Later that day, Ambassador Kim attended a memorial service on Valara Prime, hosted by General Theron Kill. The ceremony honored both the victims of the Dominion attack and the humans who had died protecting them. Among the speakers was Hyejin Lee, the young diplomat whose passionate arguments had convinced Earth to respond to the original SOS call. She had been promoted to Director of Humanitarian Affairs and now coordinated relief efforts across the galaxy. 6 months ago, Hyejin said to the mixed crowd of humans, Valarans, and former Dominion entities, we faced a choice between safety and responsibility. Earth chose responsibility, not because it was easy, but because it was right. She paused, looking out at the faces in the crowd. Former enemies now stood beside those they had once hunted. Children played together regardless of species. It was a sight that would have been impossible before the human intervention. The galaxy called us Deathworlders because we came from a world that tried to kill us every day. But that same world taught us something the rest of you had forgotten, that some things are worth fighting for no matter the cost. Today we have not just saved one civilization. We have reminded the universe that diversity makes us stronger, that individuals working together can accomplish what no collective mind ever could, and that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can be is someone who refuses to give up hope. As the ceremony ended, Ambassador Kim walked through the rebuilt capital city of Valara Prime. Human engineers worked alongside Valaran architects and former Dominion biotechnicians to create something entirely new, a fusion of technologies and philosophies that none of the species could have achieved alone. A young Valaran child approached her, offering a flower that had been genetically modified by Dominion biotechnology to bloom in patterns that resembled human musical notation. "Thank you for saving us," the child said in careful human language. "Thank you for letting us help," Ambassador Kim replied. That evening, she filed her final report to Earth Command. The Terra Protection Compact was officially established. 47 species had signed mutual defense agreements. The galaxy was safer than it had been in centuries, but more importantly, the galaxy was changing. The rigid hierarchies and collective thinking that had dominated for millennia were giving way to something more dynamic and creative. Individual expression was spreading from species to species like a beneficial virus. The Deathworlders had not conquered the galaxy. They had taught it how to be free. As Ambassador Kim looked up at the stars from her balcony on Valara Prime, she could see the lights of dozens of ships, human, Valaran, and former Dominion vessels working together on patrol routes that protected dozens of worlds. The galaxy was still dangerous. There were still predators out there, still species that viewed others as resources to be consumed. But now, there was something new in the darkness between the stars. There was hope. And sometimes, hope was the most dangerous weapon of all.